I was 14 years old when my father told me we were moving into the quarantine zone. I was helped into the back of an APC and watched the internal screens closely as we rolled across Singapore. The quarantine zone gates were opened by guards the 54I had bribed. I won't ever forget my first view of our new home. It was a war zone. Desolate, trash, and wreckage everywhere. There were still the remains of bodies laying around. I almost complained, but was silenced by a single glance from my father. He was an enforcer, one of the few who kept the Combine in check. There could be no public dissent. If I were to follow in his footsteps, I would have to play my role. We had to set the example of what was expected. No one ever dared to mess with me. Everyone was terrified of my father, and with good cause. The only people allowed to lay hands on me were my combat tutors. I expect my father would have killed them for going easy on me. If I wanted to become an enforcer, it would have to be on my own merits, not because of my family name. So for the next 3 years, my days were spent in training. Hand-to-hand combat, gunplay, urban combat tactics, strategy, history, Chinese literature. It is not enough for an enforcer to be a great fighter. They have to embody the ideals of the 54 Immortals. They have to inspire loyalty and respect. I worked as hard as I could. Failure was not an option. To fail would have brought dishonor to my father, and that was something I was determined never to do. The day of my elevation was a great day. I was escorted to the biodomes and granted an audience with the late leader Go Min and his sister Xiaolan. It wasn't the first time I'd met them, but in their presence, I could feel their greatness. Understood what they had built for us there in the quarantine zone. Xiaolan herself brought a box down towards me, placed it on a table, and told me to open it. Inside, 2 of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. My Annihilator, and the custom cybernetic arm I would need to wield it. She drew her own blade, and I took it with my left hand. In order to be worthy of this honor, I would have to show what I was prepared to sacrifice, without breaking eye contact with her. I placed my right hand on the table, and began the surgeon's work. I represent the will of the 54I, or more specifically, the will of its leaders. My personal wants and needs are of no matter. I keep the peace in the quarantine zone, settling any disputes between the rank and file. If we go to war, I'm expected to lead. The 54I has its roots in street-level operations, but we run a tight ship. We're an army, not a gang. If crimes are committed against the Immortals, then I deal with those too. As an enforcer, I am judge, jury, and executioner. Outside of the quarantine zone, I speak directly for the 54 Immortals' leadership. My word is their bond. It is a great responsibility, but I wear this title with pride. We are the Undying Immortals, and we shall never be put down!
Based on the requirements laid out at the start of this procurement process, I'm certain that the intelligence gathered in the dossiers in front of you will lead you to conclude that the 8 referenced individuals will be the best subjects for your program. Further, I believe that the plant you specified be placed amongst them will independently verify my findings. As instructed, the intelligence was gathered covertly, using a number of...
Are you certain they were unaware of your surveillance?
Yes, sir. I'd stake my reputation.
There's more at stake here than your reputation.
Sir. Yes, sir.